Have you ever heard that phrase that where there's smoke, there's fire? The idea is very simple. It's that if it looks wrong, it probably is. And to be honest with you, Republicans and Democrats have been using this logic to attack each other for years. Whether it's a laptop that supposedly belongs to the a presidential candidate's son, or someone using someone else's money to keep a porn star quiet about an alleged affair, it seems that both parties just kind of throw things out there and see what sticks. But when they actually agree on something, and that something wrong really happened, that's pretty rare.
Georgia's Secretary of State says fellow Republicans are pushing him to exclude legally cast votes and that he and his wife are getting death threats over it. Brad Raffensperger told the Washington Post that GOP Senator Lindsey Graham asked him if political bias could have led poll workers to accept absentee ballots with signatures that do not match. According to the Post, Senator Graham seemed to suggest that Raffensperger find a way to throw out legal ballots.
Yes, in case you missed that, find a way to throw out legal ballots. So Republican Senator Lindsey Graham calls a fellow Republican down in Georgia to see how he can get some of them ballots thrown out. And apparently he made calls to Arizona and Nevada as well. Now, that might have been a mistake. According to, all right, here we're gonna go through this together. It's an interesting legal jargon. But according to Section 18 of the U.S. Code of the Constitution, whoever, now let's see if I can zoom in on this for you here. This is from Cornell University. Whoever, being a person employed in an administrative position by the United States government or by any department or agency, uses his official authority for the purpose of interfering with or affecting the nomination or the election of a candidate for office of president, vice president, presidential elector, member of the Senate, House, member of the House, blah, 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 lots of things, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. All right, so that's obviously very, very confusing legal jargon here. But Andrew Weissman, who worked on with Robert Mueller on his investigations, said this is what we in the legal world like to call a felony. So Kelly, did Lindsey Graham just break the law?
It certainly sounds like he was suggesting ballots that should legally be counted be tossed. If that's the impression the Georgia Secretary of State was getting, then, he doesn't really have a political axe to grind. He's another Republican. He's not from another wing of the party or anything like that. So it certainly sounds like Lindsey Graham could be in a little bit of hot water here. Ratzenberger, he wasn't the only one on this call. He said he had staffers on there. They talked about it, discussed it before, telling the media about this, to really make sure that's what was being suggested. I think Lindsey Graham could be in some hot water here.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of folks, on the call with him, so potentially a lot of witnesses there. And the FBI did announce they are actually looking into this.
Yeah, and he made calls to Arizona and Nevada as well. He first said that those were to the Secretary of State's there. Then the one in Arizona comes out and says, well, I never talked to Lindsey Graham. And then all of a sudden, Graham's changing his story, saying, well, I talked to Governor Doug Ducey and someone else in Nevada. Notably, the Secretary of State in Arizona is a Democrat. Doug Ducey is a Republican. So if Graham was just going around calling just the Republican Secretary of State and then skipping over those in other areas, going for other Republican officials, that certainly makes this look a lot more fishy. Graham has come out and said that this was just him, looking into election integrity, but that certainly doesn't sound above board if you're going to Secretary of States who are only with your party, and then going to elected officials that are over them if that Secretary of State is a Democrat.
Absolutely. One thing I definitely don't want to kind of gloss over here is the idea that this, guys getting death threats because Trump won't just man up and accept the results of the election.
Yeah, and I mean, this also calls into question, Graham's own election. Now people are saying, well, did he put this kind of pressure on South Carolina's Secretary of State or other elected officials there? Did he try to, cook the books? I think is what a lot of people are asking. He had a strong challenger in Jamie Harrison. It's the first time he's ever faced a real challenger since being elected. And, he really, kind of overperformed expectations. So I don't think that even, a little bit of cooking the books would have changed the outcome of the election. But people are now certainly questioning whether that's what he did.
Absolutely. And the big, loser here in all of this is the faith and integrity of our election system. I mean, it just seems like they're constantly adding things, making things seem, like they're not above water when by a large part this election was, very successful and one of the most like above water elections of all time.
Like we talked about before, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick put out this tweet saying he'd pay $1 million for evidence of voter fraud, and then his counterpart in Pennsylvania, the lieutenant governor there, pulled up a couple of Republicans who had committed voter fraud in favor of President Trump, and that those were the only two people Pennsylvania had discovered out of some 6 million ballots, I think. So
yep, and I
don't
know about you, but that $1 million, man, I would have started trying to find as much voter fraud as I could because a lot of money.
Yeah,
but
and
that takes us to our.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know. I was gonna move on to the next story, but what else you got there, Kelly?
I was gonna say just the one last thing is that can you imagine if this was a Democrat who had done this? I mean, if a Democrat we found out had been asking the Secretary of State in another state to toss ballots, I mean, this would be the Benghazi hearings all over again. It would be on TV 24/7. There'd be congressional hearings. And I think this is just going to get kind of swept under the rug. I mean, maybe this is where there's smoke, there's fire. Maybe there's just smoke and no real problem thanks to people like Ratzenberger who weren't going to toss legal ballots. But, you really kind of got to question, what's going on here.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for watching Citizen Pete. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, click that little subscribe button, maybe the like button, and hey, maybe just leave a comment. I want to know what you're thinking. What do you think about all the politics, the news, and all the stuff that's going on in our country?